Hi there everyone, I am Stephen Drew from the Architecture Social, and I am joined here with Sana from Scale. This is round 2. We have spoken before, and what we're saying to Sana, she was the first ever guest on the Architecture Social podcast. And I was so nervous, because it's the first one I've ever done, that it was 10 to 12 minutes. So it was nice and short and sweet. Hopefully we can talk a little bit more. Now I've calmed down. I can get used to it. So Sana, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. Thank you for having me again. It's good to sort of be here. Yeah.
No problem. Well, it's been a few months on, and in some ways, so much has changed. And in other ways, we are still in it's lockdown number 2, isn't it? Again,
right.
I need more horns and bells for the current coronavirus situation. But have you been all right then? Everything good? You've been busy?
Yeah. Everything's good. How about you?
Not too bad. Well, we talked briefly a little bit before this, and I think one of the things that I'm doing, because I'm working currently full time at Madcon company, and I absolutely love the Architecture Social. And the thing is, when it was created on furlough, it allowed me to spend so much time on it. And actually now I've been able to spend less time on that during the day. So it's been a bit of a balance. It's been a bit of a juggling act. And it was a really nice, pleasant surprise today. Well, if I could do a little drum roll noise, you had your amazing Archi Brain course, which you've done, which is absolutely fantastic. And so for anyone that is within the Architectural Social, check out the resources section. And Sana's made an excellent course there. But if for anyone that's not in the Architectural Social or hasn't gone to the resource area section just yet, Sana, could you let me know why you decided to set this amazing new course called the Archi Brain?
Yeah, so I've sort of delved into productivity like over the past few months. It was really after I found this sort of amazing app called Notion, and I kind of went down a rabbit hole after that and just started, going into all these sort of productivity YouTubers and mindsets and acronyms and all these kind of things. And I was just thinking how, it would have been so great to have this sort of tool while I was a student, because it would have made me so much more organized, even more organized than people already think I am. So I think
you are very organized.
So I think it's a great sort of stepping point or a base just for people to kind of know about it, really.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely great. And so just in case anyone doesn't know you by any means, Sana, you have set up the Scale blog, toScale, I think, which is amazing. A great resource for students and architects alike and anyone interested in architecture. And, at the moment, you're currently busy doing your website, your magazine as well. So perhaps for anyone that doesn't know of toScale, do you want to let us know about that as well?
Yeah, for sure. So toScale is a blog and magazine. It's basically a platform for architecture students to, learn a bit more about the general lifestyle, how to sort of cope with stuff like stress. And, we even have kind of product software tutorials and productivity articles and things like that. So it's very much turned into a community. We're doing a lot of guest posts and things. So it's very much sort of people-led rather than me just doing anything I want. So, yeah.
Amazing. I love it. I absolutely think it's great. I mean, actually, you were one of the inspirations you were actually one of the precedents for the Architectural Social. And again, when we spoke many months ago, you were one of the first people I rang up about the idea, and you've been there from the beginning. And actually, I'm sure if you've been listening to a few of these, it's kind of like that. Hopefully, is a sign of respect as well. But my sense of humor. I always bring up your productivity. I always say if I could bottle your energy into a potion, I would be a millionaire. But it's true. So how do you get the time between doing all of this? So you're busy in your part one. You've got your blog. You've done the Archi Brain. Are you going to go out and drive a nice Christmas at some point? Are you going to relax?
I have been relaxing a little bit. I think,
Good.
before starting my part one, it was always a bit of nervousness. I was kind of thinking, how am I supposed to sort of manage a full-time job? Because I had never been in that position, along with the blog. And when I work on the blog, I sort of really work on it as a job. So it was kind of finding the balance between the two. And then also with all these, extra projects, at some points it was getting a bit too much. So I was sort of having to tell myself to just take a day out and just chill. So that's what I've been doing the past couple of weeks.
Good for you. I mean, it's kind of devil's advocate because actually because I think on Instagram there's a lot of activity with toScale, which is fantastic because you have a very responsive audience. And I do actually, you have got me sometimes where I actually go through and I one of the ones I always look on is toScale. And it's rather embarrassing because I was speaking to Emily Foster the other day, and I only just recently worked out on the stories. If you press your finger on it, it holds. It keeps the story on the screen. So, because I used to watch all your stories, be like, oh my God, I can't keep up with this. There's so much here. That's why I used to do one, but also I'm not as efficient as you. But I mean, it's impressive what you do. I mean, in a weird way, so the Archi Brain, and we can jump into a little bit, but you've kind of gone down the website organically. You've got your Instagram organically as well. And what you're kind of saying now is you've made the course for the Archi Brain, but so you mentioned you kind of wish that you had done it that way. And so I'm interested because I am someone I haven't got an Archi Brain. I haven't got any brain right now. I need to get a brain and organized to kind of work all this stuff out. And I think I'm never a person that normally does lists, and maybe I could benefit from them. Sometimes I go on my instinct and that serves me well, but sometimes I go wrong. So what's the kind of idea behind the Archi Brain and using Notion?
Yeah, I think, lists are like my lifesaver, to be honest. I make a list for every single thing you possibly imagine. But sort of, using Notion and, this concept of building a second brain, I've called it an Archi Brain because I've kind of adapted the concepts towards architecture students. But I think it's basically a methodology and a way of working, if you think of it. And to put it very, very short, it's essentially working on things incrementally and putting things on the back burner and just letting it amount up over time. And so rather than doing sort of a huge sprint and, overworking yourself, it's more about letting things develop over time. And so you kind of let your sort of background tasks be handled by the Archi Brain in that sense. So I think for architecture students, it's really useful because, you can plan stuff like your portfolio in advance. Because I found that in university, I was constantly, reviewing each sort of page of my portfolio. So by the time I had to sort of submit, I was ready. Every single page was pretty much done. Whereas I saw other people still working on, the first few pages of like their site research and things. And I was like, how have you not got that done yet? It's sort of a thing in the past. So it's just sort of small habits and steps that you can take to kind of be a bit more organized later on.
Very interesting. So I think it's really useful for anyone that hasn't looked at it than to consider this. And for me, I need to start looking at I need to develop my Archi Brain, or an architecture social brain would be really useful. And so you touched upon Notion, and funny enough, I remember looking at Notion a few years ago because I was doing a wiki page for my company at the time. And you're quite right. It's a really good tool. At the time, it was free. Is it still free then to use Sana, or how much does it cost? Or is it really easy for people to jump in and use this software at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I sort of started in like May, they had the free option and you were only limited to like 1,000 blocks, but they got rid of that. So it's completely unlimited.
Cool.
And if you do want like extra features to share with other people, you can get the, I think it's the educational plan. So it's even better for students, I guess, in that sense. So if you wanted to sort of share with your, friends or your flatmates or whatever stuff you want to keep track of, then it's pretty useful.
I definitely need to look into it a little bit more, and I think it's definitely great. But I guess the Archi Brain, while you talk about Notion, really what you're trying to teach people is that methodology or that kind of approach. So you don't need to have a Notion account per se, right?
Yeah.
You could use something else. You could be Excel. It could be all this stuff, or it could be, I imagine you can do it in different ways, right? I guess the software doesn't dictate the process.
Exactly, definitely. It's more like the course is more about, putting all these sort of ideas and concepts forward rather than telling someone exactly how to do something, because it works differently for different people. Like some people prefer seeing everything visually, whereas other people like having sort of that, list idea. So it doesn't sort of depend on using a tool or anything.
Yeah, it's really interesting you mentioned that, because I kind of agree. Actually, I think that, so even when it comes to database or Excel, I always think of Excel at the moment. It always reminds me of the coronavirus track and trace. Everything's on that thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was the best way to do it. But I quite like Airtable, because to me, I used to be a bit of a computer geek. I still am. Still love computers. But to me, the most geeky, the software that isn't initially easy to use, but is the most intuitive, configurable, or hardcore, that would be the stuff that I gravitate towards. But recently, I quite like Airtable. To me, is a fantastic example of Excel, where it does the bits that most people do really well. And then you have all these add-ons, for instance, where you can see on the map people's locations. And that is stuff that I've never been able to do in Excel. And it's so accessible. And that's what I quite liked about Notion, is that actually, and I like to use, my mum never uses computers, but my mum could totally set up a Notion and she could do it because it's quite accessible to all. So it's quite a nice time period to do all this stuff. And I mean, just to bring it back to as well, because you got so many things going on. It's probably worth. I'd love to talk a little bit about on the toScale blog. So, because there's a lot of work that goes into that. So with the Archi Brain, it's a course that I think everyone should check out, because what you're talking about is how people should get organized. And that's currently on the Architectural Social. It's open to everyone. It's a free course that you've made, which you should be applauded for. So, if I had my soundboard my soundboard's in the other room, I would have the little clap noise, but there you go. But what I was going to go on to, but the scale is a very interesting, different thing, because that's kind of like your real project. So it's like the Archi Brain has been this methodology that you listened to and you wanted to share how you felt about it. So you made this course, but the toScale is almost like the business aspect of it, as in there's a lot of moving parts. And we've talked about it briefly because you have guest people writing articles. Now, it must be really fun to do that, but it also involves people getting involved. It involves coordinating, and it's a lot of work. So, I mean, what's your experience been with it? What have you found that's succeeded, and what have you found that's been challenges that you've learned or overcome?
Well, with the guest posts, I think I found early on that many people often say that they want to write something and then they don't end up doing anything. So that's one thing that you just need to keep in mind and just, not get disheartened by, because people do end up getting busy and things. I think also the difference between sort of a regular guest post and how I'm doing things is that, it's not just a submission form. Some random person reviews it and it gets stuck up on the blog. It's very much a learning process for the people writing it too. So I'm not sort of like an expert in writing, but I'm offering that kind of help and guidance just for them to really be able to write, not better, but sort of in a way that will actually engage the audience as well. So it's sort of a lengthy process at the moment, but I quite like it. And I've sort of the people who have written for the blog at the moment are sort of really appreciative, and they're really sort of interesting to speak to as well, because everyone's got these different experiences that I don't have. So I think that was the main goal of it, and it blew up even more than I could have imagined in the beginning. So I think it's been a good experience. It does get a bit out of hand if there's too many people all at once. but I think the sort of insights they provide is invaluable. So kind of, it's worth it.
I agree. It's really, really interesting way of looking at it. And I felt the same with the architectural social. I do enjoy it. And I do think there's even things that I've learned of. So for instance, you remember at the start, I would review everyone's CVs and portfolios. I mean, I'm conscious even now there's one or two that I haven't looked at. And it's kind of that thing of what I've learned is you can't be there like Superman all the time doing this stuff. But it's kind of the challenge that I'm trying to work on the architectural social is there are so many people, and you're right, people get busy, and what I don't want it to be is where someone feels obligated to say stuff all the time. They can dip in and dip out, but then there's also the other challenge of trying to stimulate people to do ideas that they've wanted to do and they felt it's not possible or they don't know where to do it. And my way of looking at it is like, just do it. So when we talked about the course, I'm like, yeah, go for it. And you've run for it. And to me, it's really delightful because it's content on the architectural social, but it's actually something you wanted to do. And I think we've got the book club going on, and the book club's been through a few iterations, but currently we've got the architectural experiment, and we've got Emily Foster on board, and they're going to help reshift it for next year, which would be really cool. And so it's a little bit of a more accessible book club. I mean, that's what Nilda and Emily have talked about, and I'm really happy to foster that idea. But like you, if anyone is listening to this and they have an idea for the architectural social or toScale, I think please get in contact with me, or I'm sure, Sana, you'd say you'd love to hear from people as well, right?
Definitely,
with ideas for the blog.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still getting to work with different people. So it's where we've kind of had all these different side projects as well that are in the works. So I think definitely reach out. It's not kind of an exclusive thing on either side. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I'm sure hopefully people don't feel obligated to do these. It's not like you have to do it or anything like that. I just think that sometimes if anyone's feeling a bit shy about it or thinking, oh gosh, I shouldn't ask, or I shouldn't bother Steve, or I shouldn't bother Sana, then my view is you should reach out, because it's a little bit like when I was doing the CVs and portfolios, because half of it, you've got to get your CV and portfolio if you're looking for a job tip top, but half of it is approaching people and asking questions. And I mean, one of the reasons why you've built your course on the architectural social, and I mean, your blog's been always there, but I think in terms of the Archi Brain and your involvement, that purely comes, I guess, from me reaching out, and then you also then reciprocating nicely and being like, yeah, sure, I'll have a chat. We didn't know each other, but it's having a conversation. It's just, it's feeling ideas out. And I think that's like my biggest thing is that I think right now is that I would encourage, especially anyone during a really difficult time, to go out of their way and to do stuff, because you feel better from it when it's done. And you've got something to show for it, because doing a course like the Archi Brain or doing the Scale blog, you've always got something there. But I'm sure you feel the same, is that I love the architectural social. It changes as I go along. And I talked to you a little bit earlier about now I love these live streams, but then I want to keep the community feel. And when something's live on LinkedIn and YouTube, it's really hard to get that tight knit feeling. But on the other side, then you've got more exposure from using these platforms. So it's kind of, I'm constantly learning myself, and I make a lot of mistakes, and it's quite interesting. I mean, do you feel that as well? Have you learned a lot from the website and what's not worked as well? And what about
definitely.
LinkedIn? What about Instagram and LinkedIn in particular, Sana? I'd love to hear any pearls of wisdom on that side of it, especially Instagram, because you are the guru, in my opinion.
All right, I'll tell you about Instagram. You can tell me about LinkedIn. How about that?
Oh gosh, okay, will do.
I think, definitely. Like when I first sort of started the blog, the idea was also to have like this design challenge aspect of it, or like a competition thing. But that never worked out, because I felt like it was a lot of time and effort. I did try sort of mini challenges here and then, but I don't know, like people in architecture can be so shy. It's very hard to sort of get anything out of them. And
Do you know what?
After like you actually build personal relationships, even if it's over social media, that they then start, coming out of their shell.
Do you know what? Because we've got a competition in the Architecture Social right now, and I don't know whether we're going to have any entrants because everyone's busy or shy. And so I actually put a little post the other day quite meekly, like, hey, do you want me to extend this and stuff? But you're right. You'd think that but it's not that it's that we're all human. Some people are busy, some people are shy. And I found the same thing of, I'm not too sure whether people have time to do the competition, bizarrely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you kind of start questioning yourself because you think, there's this amazing idea I have, but then people don't really say anything or do anything. So, in that sense, it's a bit difficult. But I think with time, because the whole sort of engagement on Instagram has grown so much, I think people are a bit more willing to, put forward their opinions and share their own sort of experiences as well. So, I think it's going okay. I think with Instagram, I think, many people have sort of said, you're always online, you're always posting stories and stuff like that. But it's really not true. Like, out of my day, I probably spent about a couple of hours. But that's
there you go, a couple of hours.
But that's not reflecting, my whole day. Like, it's just the specific things that I want to share with people, or it's nothing like, oh my God, I'm doing this amazing drawing or render or whatever. It's nothing like that. It's very much. I'm also in this sort of dilemma. I want to do more sort of renders. I don't know how. Someone help. What kind of tutorials do I watch and things like that. It's sort of me asking them for help as well.
Yeah, that's really, really well put. I mean, I think that that's where I'm really careful on LinkedIn, because I don't think on the architectural search, especially this week, it's been absolutely terrible. But I'm still, Buffer, for anyone out there's a really good like scheduling thing, but I never have the time to fill up the queue. So my buffer is always empty. But what I try to do on LinkedIn, because I do think I'm all right at LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's a bit of a different world than Instagram. And so, because on LinkedIn, I've got two theories, and I'm not too sure, and I've got nothing to back them up except gut instinct. So take it as Steve's food of thoughts, not like a wisdom or nothing I can't scientifically prove them. But what I can do is I can base these upon things I post and how many people get views. So to give you a good idea is that I can typically post a job ad on LinkedIn that I'm working on, and it'll get between 2,000 to 8,000 views. From that, I'll get about 100 messages, and sometimes there's one or two people that are really good for the job. So now I am at that point where I get a really good conversion rating, but I have 26,000 connections. Yeah. And most of them are in architecture. And even now I'm disconnecting with people that I've added in the past, which are not related to architecture. Not because I'm like an exclusive club or anything like that. It's just more that if they're not in architecture, that's the value that I can offer is within architecture. And so you do get a lot of hits there. But what I found in terms of recruitment is often what's called in return on investment on time. ROI. Okay. And so on LinkedIn, if I post a job ad or I post something on the architectural social to get attention. Now, what I've learned is that I can post something completely irrelevant that is within architecture. Maybe I post to your blog. I will do that because we get along with each other and you've been helpful. And then there is traffic which will go to your website. It will typically be between 50 to 200 people from that, because 3,000 people will look at it. 200 people will really click on it. And you notice like then 5 or 10 people are really engaged. That's kind of the reality of the situation. But where I was going with this is that what I've learned is that I can post to Foster & Partners website, but you don't really get a return on investment on that. You're being helpful, but the content I try to do now is always post into the architectural social website. So this is partly the way I've done it is that when I can't show someone some aspects because of the private community, I've tried to build parts of the website which are accessible to all, as in a talks area, an article area, and there's big gains for that because then you're bulking up, you're using LinkedIn to build up the Architectural Social. So Google ranks it for number one for the Architectural Social because people go there. And so in that way, success. But on Instagram, because I'm not so known, because I've been on LinkedIn for 6 years, no one is going on there, or very, very, very little. So the way I've done the Instagram is that I now post a little bit of my blogs and talks, but I don't know how I feel about all that. The bit I enjoy the most is posting students and academics' work on there, because I think it's nice, it's showcasing and then getting the word out there for the individual. And the other bit that I do like doing on LinkedIn as well is exactly the same thing, because me posting their work on Instagram is nice, but me posting it on LinkedIn because of who I am and working with clients and architects is probably more valuable. So, I mean, that's where I really enjoy it. So to answer your question all along about way, LinkedIn for me is so valuable, but it's taken me a few years to get here. So my tip for anyone, and truthfully though, if you're not a recruitment consultant, you don't need to have a huge architectural network, but every time you meet someone in real life, my advice would be on LinkedIn to add them, follow up with a little note, because even if you forget in the future, you'd be like, oh, it was great to see you at Madcon. And we'll talk about Madcon in a bit, but you say a little bit about, how you've met each other, and then you pick it up in the future.
Right.
The other thing you can use LinkedIn for, which I'm sure a lot of people have picked up my messages, is that I do use it to message everyone I add, saying who I am, the Architectural Social, and I will try to message people. And I'm a bit guilty right now because my LinkedIn message inbox, so I haven't got my bell here, so you're just getting on my horn all the time. But my LinkedIn inbox is really, really crammed. But that's just because I've been building up the Architecture Social. So it's a really good tool to use. But I think compared to what you do, your brief isn't quite like that. And I think the toScale is more of that magazine. People can enjoy the content. So in that respect, you're probably going to get more of your audience on Instagram rather than LinkedIn. Is that right? Yeah,
true. Yeah, I think that's true. I think even now I probably use LinkedIn as a sort of tool for myself rather than the blog specifically. So I think it's something that I didn't really, pay attention to while I was a student. And it was only after, or while I was sort of, looking for jobs and, getting myself down about it, I started to think about, okay, what I need to do is just network. So I think it's a great sort of personal tool as well, for sure.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you could think about LinkedIn is that there are a lot of directors and companies, and the one thing I like, it's the same thing as when I was trying to do the CV talks and portfolios, is that you can probably speak to most directors and message them and talk to them about this. I'm sure as you've done a little bit, but if you talk to them about toScale, is that people are actually open to it. And that's why it's the same thing about your CV and portfolio. You have to be able to be out there and message people. But when you do it, try to make it a bit more personalized. Hi, David. I really like David Smith's Architects. I really like what you've done. I thought that your recent project was quite interesting. By the way, here's my CV portfolio. Or, by the way, here is the Architectural Social. Or, by the way, here is toScale. That's what I try to do. Obviously, you can get a little bit busy, but I do think there's a value on all these tools. But the truth is, though, it doesn't matter if you've got an Instagram account or LinkedIn. People have got to be interested in what you're offering. So it's actually the content of toScale, not so much Instagram. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And so you can't be seduced, in my opinion, by, if you just I just want to set up a new Instagram account to do it, you need to have
solid content. Yeah, to back it up.
It's got to be, it's our mission. And so with toScale, it's because it hadn't really been done. And it's because you wanted to see the community and guest blogs and share wealth. And, you've got your Discord. But remember, I asked you about Discord. And I mean, for anyone listening here, what did you tell me when I said, I'm fancy setting up a Discord?
I said, look, it gets a bit quiet. I literally took the time to, go through these different tutorials and see how to set it up in the best way possible. But it's just kind of, dead. No one, yeah, like I said, people are pretty shy. No one really engages. So I have been kind of thinking about how to, you know, maybe I just have to put myself forward, but it's not that much of a priority in my mind right now.
No, I don't think it, and I agree. And what I've learned is that maybe you don't need the Discord if other things are working. And the other pearls of advice that you give me, which you kind of already said earlier, is I asked you about guest articles. You say quite rightly, you're like, Steve, don't expect a massive queue of them.
Yeah, true.
But it's really interesting. And I guess for anyone listening here, is these are, I guess you're kind of showing your thoughts on these, Sana, and I'm trying to tell you my experience. But really, it's about finding the magic for stuff. So I don't know. I mean, probably my version of the architectural social is very different than for other people. And I think lately, maybe I think for me, I feel like there's stuff on there, but I feel like I'd like to see a little bit more conversation going, but maybe everyone's just busy, so I've got to calm down a bit.
You can't know, isn't it? Yeah.
You just don't know. So, like you as a creator, I've got that bug where I kind of just want to keep going. And you gotta stop a little bit. So, very interesting. All right. So me and you, we need to develop a new like AA course for creators, creatoraholics.
Yeah.
But you do need to balance, though. Do you ever I felt a bit like, especially a week or so ago, I remember I was like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of steam here because I love it. But do you ever feel like, oh my gosh, if I don't stop, if I can't take a break because if I stop, it won't go ahead. Do you ever feel like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I had like a huge burnout. I was like, no, I can't do any of this. Just forget it. And even sort of the other day, I was sort of taking the time to just reevaluate what I'm actually doing, because I feel like I have that problem where I'm just saying yes to everything or every idea that pops up in my head. I'm just like, okay, I'm doing it. But then everything sort of piles up and then you kind of think, oh, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. So it doesn't really, you know, the quality becomes poor and then you just don't have the time to do everything correctly. So, yeah, definitely I feel you on that it does sort of take a lot of effort. And you do get those times where you just feel like, you know, it's just, I need to sort of take a step back and just refresh. So,
it's, and I had a really interesting conversation with Alvin on the podcast as well, because he's actually really, really re-engineered projects by people. And I actually applaud him for it, because to me, it takes a lot of guts to say, I'm going to change the formula, because in one sense, and this is my interpretation, so Alvin, if you're listening, this is just my interpretation, but yeah, they're really successful Instagram where people are posting their work, and he was kind of, and like, you know, it served his purpose, but he's like, hang on, I'm kind of don't want it just to be this anymore. I don't want it just people to post their projects. That's fine. But I don't want it just to be Instagram eye candy. I'm going to turn it into something different. And it takes a lot of guts then to go on YouTube where you've got like 20 subscribers because you're starting from scratch. Whereas surely it feels quite comfortable to have 5,000 followers on Instagram, right? Whereas to do something completely different is,
I know, yeah,
to me, just takes a lot of guts.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think I've really been loving Alvin's videos so far, and they're so kind of cool because when we speak, it's sort of, you know, every week or every other week, and it's kind of always just about Mad Collective, so we don't get to sort of know that other side of each other. And I think, yeah, it was really cool to see that he's also bringing in his own interests with like film and videography and things, and actually using that to drive his sort of platform as well as his YouTube channel. So I think that's a great step to be moving towards. And I think he kind of underestimates himself. I think he's doing a lot at the moment, you know, studying and sort of working on the YouTube channel, working on projects by people, and then also doing the Mad Collective stuff. So really just, you know, applaud him. Yeah.
Alvin, give yourself a break. There's a video, Alvin, I think you should watch, which is called something to do with the 4-burner theory by Alvin on YouTube. Oh, wait, it's your video. give yourself a break. You can't do everything. But he's such a nice guy. He'll do really well. You got to find your voice. And sometimes I remember it was moving away from architecture to recruitment was quite a big step. And, the idea of doing the architectural social, it was a bit like, maybe I feel like maybe I know what I'm doing, and then you get that moment like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. You're making it up as you go along, and you're kind of readjusting it. But the advice that I would give for anyone but like any projects or anything is that it's a bit like the architectural social logo. I've changed it like 3 times, and hopefully now it's better. But you just got to change it and keep going. But if you're obsessive about, I can't set up the community until I get the perfect logo, then maybe it would have taken 3 weeks. And do you know what I mean? And then you're just a logo. Whereas if you've got a good idea, I think you can reinterpret it, and you can make it look better, and you can tweak it, and you can work out what's going on.
And no one's going to say anything either, isn't it? No one's going to be like, oh my God, you changed your logo, like, wow, I'm out of here. It's not like that at all. So and often you get more compliments, and you can actually bring people involved in it. And that's the clever thing that you do really well, and I try to do here, is get people's feedback. And so I might even do like a cheeky question tomorrow, like, what should we call the architectural social show? Because I had so many suggestions, but now I think like the running joke is that we'll never have a name for it. It'll just be like the 73rd architectural show, the pink architecture show. I don't know, but it'll just be, I think I'm in a clever play from it, but that came from a conversation in the community. And, that's the kind of thing that I like, that community involvement, and I like learning as you go. And actually, it's probably because the Mad Collective, for anyone that doesn't know, the Mad Collective is kind of like what I call one of them super bands, where it's like all the rock stars of Instagram are just going into one big like band. Right.
But so can you tell me? So we've got yourself, toScale in there. Who else is in the Mad Collective, Sana?
So we have Alvin, of course, from Projects by People, who kind of brought the whole thing together. And then we have Hamza from Two Worlds Design. So he has his own podcast. And then we have Faisal from Arc AE. So that's his own sort of company brand. And then we have Gabriel from Arc Logbook. So it's kind of, spread out all over the world, really. We've never really met in person. We didn't know each other before this. So it was really interesting to kind of start this, all online and virtually. So what we're doing basically is kind of just doing monthly symposiums. We have a couple of different side projects going on as well. And essentially the drive is so that us as content creators can collaborate together and put in all our sort of ideas and backgrounds. And, we all have different interests as well, and see how we can combine that and produce some, valuable content for people.
Yeah, it's good. And actually, speaking of that, Gabriel's a bit of a dark horse, actually, because he's readjusted his Instagram a few times, and I really like his new look. I always feel like his fonts are quite sexy. I'm like, ooh, damn, that looks good. So, Gabriel, help me out in the architecture social and my next logo, please help me. No, it's really good, and I like it as well. And I do need to get to know Gabriel a bit more. I've spoken to him briefly because he had his own Mighty Networks, and then he kind of turned it off, and then he had one of the groups onto the social as well. And Gabriel, I absolutely love what you do. The thing is that I've kind of learned, even with in your miniature group within the architectural social, isn't it? So it's really hard to get a group in the group because you have so many your time everywhere that actually really your time should be spent on the scaleblog.co.uk. Right. But having your Instagram, then having a mini one on the architectural social, I don't think it's as successful as your other ones. And that's nothing to do with you. That's because I don't think that is the right way to go. So actually, it's quite cool that now that's why I love your Archi Brain course, because it's a totally different medium. It's basically combines what you've done before, and it's an accessible format for everyone. Yeah. And people can find your website from it. So to me, in that way, it's more of a success story, and it's more of something unique for the social, which is still very much you, but different. Exactly. It's not a copy of a copy, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's something that's unique for the platform as well. So I think, it's sort of a win-win on all sides, really.
I love it. I'm going to promote it to the cows come home. It is good anyways, but I will promote it to the cows come home. If anyone hasn't checked it out, please do check it out because it's free, and not many stuff like this with this rich information is free in life. It's a good testament to Sana and her website. So the other thing I was thinking is worth touching on is because we talked about the Madcon, but in typical Mad fashion, and I love the name, by the way. I think it's brilliant. It reminds me of Mad magazine, but Madcon, the Mad Collective has the Madcon, and the Madcon is the Mad Convention, which is a bit like Comic-Con of the Mad world. And so that's going to be a digital online event. Now, I've been terrible at setting the Zoom event test on the weekend, but I think we're preliminarily going on the Architectural Social for that. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think, we're sort of hoping to host most of the events on there and sort of drive people through the social as well. And that's also a way of collaborating, because that's the sort of main driver of the whole convention, really, is to get sort of all these different content creators and platforms to work together. So I think, I think that works great, really.
Brilliant. Well, there's no pressure if it changes, but of course I would absolutely love the Madcon to be on there. And we kind of worked out some stuff today where we can actually invite people in now, isn't it? To the thing, and a few others, but, it's probably worth mentioning for the Madcon, wherever it is. I would love it to be on the Architectural Social. Please be on the social. But I should mention, because you did email me, I would love to do one or two events there. So I was thinking that maybe what we could do, Sam, there is something that, because I've done talks about CVs and portfolios, but maybe we could even do a drop-in workshop where if someone wants to talk about their CV and portfolios, we would ask them to remove their contact details. But I could do something where it's like a live event where people bring their projects and we have an open discussion and I give them my thoughts. Maybe that's an event that we could do. So like a CV and portfolio workshop. The other thing that we could do, and I'll announce it here now, is that I will ask one or two architectural practices that I work with as well, because I did have Claudio Collins on the podcast before. I'll try to find out if anyone wants to get involved in the Madcon to talk. Up in the air, because I know a lot of architectural practices are busy, but I will try. So I think that would be good. And it's probably worth mentioning, actually, on the Architectural Social now, we do have more and more employers on there. I think an actual architectural practice called Design Studio posted a part 2 job on them. So it is definitely worth checking out. So the more and more employers we can get on board with the architectural community in the Madcon, I think would be great. So I am 110% behind you with that. But you've got the Archi Brain, you've got the list, and I think you've learned you've got to manage me now. I've got very bad time management, so you're gonna have to like chase me.
Yeah, for sure. I'll do that. Don't worry.
We will get it done. Okay, so we have covered here the new course in the Architectural Social, architecturalsocial.com, and there's also a link. I'll do a link as well, a pretty link, Sana. I'll do a short one. I'll do it, architecturalsocial.com / ArchiBrain. I'll do that one. And we've got your bit.ly link as well, which we're going to share in the comments and the podcast. So anyone listening, you should check that out right now and let us know your thoughts. And anyone that writes to me or writes to Sana and says what they think of the course will get extra brownie points. I will honk my horn in appreciation. I need to get my bell back here. I can't. It's in the other room. But so we got the architecturalsocial.com. We've got the ArchiBrain on the architecturalsocial.com. And we've got your website, which is toScale
blog.co.uk. Yep.
No, okay. toScaleblog.co.uk. All right, fantastic. We can find you on Instagram, which is toScale. You are on LinkedIn as well, Sana Tabassum, but you're actually working as a part 1 at the moment, isn't it? So I think for anything toScale related, the best thing is to go direct on your website or contact you on the Architectural Social as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Reach out to me wherever.
Wow, what's that thudding noise? Is your boiler breaking down?
No, it's these fireworks.
Hey! Fireworks, fantastic.
Yeah.
That sounded like someone was knocking on the door. I've been watching The Walking Dead a lot lately, so anything I hear like that.
The new season.
No, I'm not today.
No?
Oh, I didn't watch it before. So I'm on season 8 right now.
Okay, cool. I haven't watched the new season either.
Yeah. I don't say like, oh, do you know what happened to Rick in season 9? Ah! No. What else do you do in your spare time? You're on Instagram too much, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I think I am.
Don't worry. It's very difficult right now in current times. I mean, I've got to go. My current thing is because I like working in an office, and I've actually I've got to get back in the gym. I've got a diet and everything, because sitting here working on the architectural social and working on, just a lot of my time. I just like the way you're on Instagram. That I put on like over a stone, man. So I've totally got to go on a diet. But hey, no one's perfect. That's what I'm trying to say. No one's perfect. But new year, we can all change it. Thank you so much, Sana. Everyone can check out all the amazing stuff you've done. I am absolutely one of your biggest fans. I think it's amazing. You've done a free course on the Architectural Social, open to everyone, and the blog is, of course, awesome. Thank you so much, Sana. Have a fantastic evening.
You too.
All right, take care.
All right. See ya.